Hey everybody, welcome to episode 44 of the Return Posse. Today I'm doing a mini review on the Skull & Company for now, thumb grip set for your Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons. So these thumb grips were definitely recommended by quite a few people, some of my best friends included, and since they also recommended the grip case for the Nintendo Switch, when I was looking online through Amazon, I saw that Skull & Company made thumb grips as well too, and I thought, why not try the thumb grips? Since I've done a few episodes comparing and reviewing different thumb grips, why not do these two? And they look like a really good deal, as well as having the ability to work on both your Nintendo Switch and your PlayStation 4 DualShock controllers. So here's the packaging for the Skull & Co. Thumb grip set. So you can tell it comes in a small little package, and it has, of course, the set comes with 3 different thumb grips. And inside they're individually named. They're called the Skin Grip, the Cqc Elite, and finally they have the Fps Master. And so I just kind of wanted to show off. These are the skin grips right here, and then the next one, this one here is the Cqc Elite. And from first glance, they don't look that different from each other, but in all honesty, the Cqc Elite actually has a little bit more edge on the top. If you notice right where the skull is, there's a little bit more of a harder edge compared to the skin grip, and so that actually gives you, I don't know, a little bit more grip when you use the Cqc. And if I had to just take a guess on what it'd be for, say something for more intense kind of a, third person shooting, or even an action game similar to, say, like Bayonetta, things like that. Whereas on the skin grips, they're probably good for just your normal any kind of Nintendo Switch game, whether you're just playing a game of, say, Tetris, Puyo Puyo, or any kind of like light but not too intensive kind of a gameplay on the joysticks themselves. And so finally we have the Fps Master thumb grips, and you can definitely tell how much taller they are compared to both the skin grip and the Cqc Elite. So it does, very similar to the other thumb grips, gives you a lot more range of motion, so you can kind of roll your thumb from a more larger radius with those taller thumb grips. There was one more configuration that was shown off on the back of the instruction manual, and it was actually the combination of the Cqc Elite on top of the Fps Master thumb grips to actually have a double thumb grip utility action. And the monstrosity of one on top of the other really makes it not only super tall, but at the same time, a really good grip. And I thought that was downright genius that you could use both of those thumb grips on one control stick. And it looked ginormous. And I compared it to one of the Hyperkin thumb grips that I did from a previous review. And yep, they are just as tall as those. But as far as the feel and the overall usefulness, yeah, it felt really good. And if you have an extra Cqc Elite and an Fps Master to use, go ahead and put one right on top of the other. So the directions recommend you to invert the thumb grip, very similarly to like those old pop caps from before. And you invert them, place them over the joystick themselves, and then let the thumb grip snap back right over the thumbstick. And so very simple in practice, to be honest, even though the directions are very detailed on how to put them on. I really didn't have any problems applying the thumb grips onto the Joy-Cons themselves. All 3 of them fit just fine. So you can tell here they look just fine, very snug. The Fps Master, great range of motion. Cqc Elite has really good grip from that extra slightly higher lip. on the near the skull logo. And finally, the regular skin grips, which were really good. They were the first one I tried, and I immediately enjoyed the added textile, kind of a thicker feel to the joystick on the Joy-Con themselves. So overall, it felt really good using all three of them. And so you can tell right from the packaging that these thumb grips are designed for both the Nintendo Switch and for the PlayStation 4, which is pretty cool, to be honest. So at least you have some options more than just sticking it to one console. And just for educational purposes, I took out my PS4 controller, my DualShock, and just for proof of concept, you can definitely apply the skin grips, the Cqc Elite, as well as the FPS Master onto your PlayStation 4 controller. The reason I said earlier about there's a little bit of benefit of using one over the other is after some time that I used the thumb grips on the PS4 joystick, I noticed they actually, with time, started stretching the thumb grips themselves. And you'll kind of notice here that the thumb grips don't completely envelope the controller, so the controller, the joystick itself, while it still works and fits really good, over time it felt like it actually extended or stretched out the thumb grips a little bit. And the only way I could tell is when I took them off my PlayStation 4 controller and put them back onto the Nintendo Joy-Con, they felt a little bit more loose. You know, they were kind of spinning around the Joy-Con themselves. Not so much that it was completely unusable and they fell right off. That's nowhere near the point or the case. They actually worked just fine. Just as a little advice or warning that if you want to use them for both of your controllers, that using them on the PlayStation 4 controller would eventually have it stretch out a bit. And one more helpful tip, on the back of the instructions, it actually recommended if the thumb grips were to get, say, slippery from either thumb oils or whatnot, if it gets any liquid spilled on it, you can actually use an alcohol swap pad to clean the thumb grips. Definitely useful. And you can actually clean them again, the thumb grips, and they'll actually feel good as new. And so I did that right here with these, and lo and behold, yep, they felt really good. They got that grip back. But as far as some quick thoughts, overall I really did enjoy using the Skull & Co thumb grips. They were a joy to use, a blast to use. And when comparing them to the Kontrol Freek thumb grips, to be honest, both sets are really good, and I have no complaints on using one or the other, or using one over the other. I think whichever you choose is a very good decision. Granted, the variety as well as the overall value and application of using the Skull & Co on both your Nintendo Switch controllers as well as your PlayStation 4 controllers does add a little bit more utility as opposed to using the Kontrol Freek ones, which in this case, the ones that I'm using and testing with only works with the Nintendo Switch. But that isn't to say that they don't feel amazing. The grip on the Kontrol Freek thumb grips are really second to none, to be honest. So finally, in the end, after all that kind of testing and messing around with both sets of the thumb grips for both the Kontrol Freek turbos that I have here still, as well as the new Skull & Co thumb grips, you know what? You know, they're both really good, and I have no complaints on actually using them for everyday purposes. And to be honest, I think a lot of these grips that are coming out, they only improve the use of the Joy-Cons with these grips. So neither of them actually have any detriment to using the Joy-Cons. They only improve the overall use of your Joy-Cons. And like I was saying, after all that testing, what did I think of, you know, both of these kinds of sets? And they were still very good for both of them. The value on both is kind of the one that kind of skews it, since on the Skull & Co they actually have 3 sets, the skin grips, the Cqc Elite, as well as the FPS Master branded ones. And since you can even do a little bit of Transformers and put the CQC right on top of the FPS Master and create this super thumb grip. Whereas on the Kontrol Freeks, you just have the just the single ones that only work on your Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons. But they are amazing though. The grip on these, you know, for as much as I've tried to test it over the last few weeks now, hasn't let up, hasn't slowed down, and they still work just as great as they did since the day that I got them. So if you had to pick between the two, pick them both. No, I'm just kidding. If I had to pick between the two, and I do own a PlayStation 4 as well as my Nintendo Switch, I probably would have liked going with the Skull & Co. Bear in mind though that I mentioned earlier, if you plan on using them with your PlayStation 4 controller, the thumb grips on the PlayStation 4 controllers are a little bit wider. So when you use them on there over a prolonged period of time, they actually, what I felt was it stretches the cup of the thumb grip itself. So when you finally take them off and put them on your Switch, it actually is a bit loose since it's been actually kind of stretched out a bit on your PlayStation 4 DualShock. But it doesn't actually make any real negative effects. You know, it doesn't fall right off. It's just once it actually is in the cup, it just kind of spins around a little bit, but you still can use it just fine. It's just something that I noticed. So the verdict for the Skull & Co. thumb grip sets for your Nintendo Switch / PlayStation 4 DualShock is that they are a keep it, an absolute keep it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of the return policy. If you thought any of this was informative or useful, please go ahead and hit that like button. If you thought the red was too bright and it was not that informative, go ahead and hit that dislike button. That's cool too. Other than that, thank you again for taking the time to watch all these mini reviews that I do. If you want to stick around with me for that semi-long run, please feel free to hit that subscribe button as well too. Other than that, thanks again, and I'll see you next time.